My name's Jenny and I'm the event organiser for Boost Your Skills live event series. If you haven't heard from us before, we do have a series of events that are designed to support students in study skills, wellbeing and employability. So after the event, we will be sending out some information about how to watch previous event videos and upcoming events. So if you are interested, they're free to attend. So please do book tickets or get in touch if you have any questions. Before I hand over to Maria to introduce Felicity, I just have a few details to share. The session will be about 40 minutes, which leaves time at the end for you to ask your own questions. We will ask you to pop the questions in the chat, but if you could save them till the end so that we don't miss them, that would be great. So this is a webinar, which means that you cannot turn your cameras or microphones on, but there'll be plenty of opportunities for you to join in on different sub-sessions. So we'll have live polls coming up, and you can also join in the chat box and chat to each other as the session goes on. The live polls will be happening in Zoom, so they should pop up on your screen. However, if you do have any issues, then you can always pop your vote into the chat box. The session's being live streamed to YouTube and will be saved there. So you'll be able to watch the video after the event, and we'll also be sharing the slides with all attendees. So finally, I'd like to thank Sage Publishing and Felicity for helping us to set up this event for you free of charge. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Maria, who will introduce Felicity.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm Maria. I'm a marketing executive at Sage Publishing, working on study skills books. And I'm really delighted to introduce you to Felicity Becker, who's one of our authors. Felicity is a lecturer at the University of Reading, and she's passionate about helping students apply their transferable skills in and beyond their university experience. She is the author of Boost Your Employability and co-author of 7 Steps to a Successful Career and the recently published Acing Online Assessment. Today, Felicity will be showing you some top tips on how to nail applications, make the most of your transferable skills, and overall how to become more employable. So now I'll hand over to you, Felicity.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you very much, Jenny, for organising the event. So I'm going to share my screen now. I've got a few slides that I'm going to take you through. And just let me know if there's any issues, if anybody has any issues with this. That one. Okay. Can everybody see that slide?
Yes, yeah, I can see it.
Fabulous. So this talk today is loosely based on this super quick skills book. They're fantastic books that Sage publish, which are about that big and very readable and very easy to get through, with lots of exercises that you can do. So if you're interested after this talk to look further into any of your sort of skills that you might want to use after university, then do go and have a look at their super quick skills selection. So before we get too far down the line, first of all, I'd like to know from you how confident you feel about getting into your chosen career. So on a scale of 0 being not very confident at all to 5 being absolutely very, very, very confident, where do you sit, please? And you should see a poll on your screen now. Thank you very much, Jenny, for putting that up.
Okay, so we're on 50% participated. So if you can see it on your screen, then please do vote. If not, you can pop the your vote into the chat. And don't worry, no one sees how you vote. So we won't be judging you at all. This is just to get an idea of how confident you're feeling at the beginning of the event. Okay, we've got 85% participated on there. So I'll just give anyone a last second. If you want to vote, then pop it in. Okay, we're going to end the poll and share results. So here we go. So on there, I'd say that's not too bad. There's a lot of people that think that they're number 3 on the scale of 0 to 5. I think that's not too bad. But there's a few people that think they're not at all confident. But then also some people thinking they're quite confident, so that's good.
Okay, so in terms of where you're all at, I think the fact that you're turning up to this talk in the first place shows how committed you are to boosting your employability and getting into your chosen career. So first of all, big pat on the back for doing that. I know it's always a bit of it feels like a bit of an extra thing to do on top of your studies, but it is really, really worth doing. So well done for turning up. So let me get to my next. Was it going to let me know? Okay. So the first thing about how to boost your employability is there is an awful lot of planning that goes with it and having goals. And by having goals, you know when you've succeeded or when you've fallen short of something. So my first bit of advice to you when you're looking at your employability is to think about making SMART goals. I'm just going to move this little screen out of the way because I don't think that's helping. I'm not sure how to do that. Put that down to the bottom so you can see better. So when we talk about SMART goals, they're going to be specific, they're going to be measurable, attainable and relevant, and they're time-based or time-bound, we sometimes hear. And what this means is that you are going to make sure that when you are writing your objective or your goal, that could be something as simple as writing your CV, you are going to make sure that you're specific about, are you going to write the first draft of your CV? Are you going to write a master copy of your CV with absolutely everything on? Are you making a CV for a specific job advert? So you're going to be specific about what you're doing. In terms of measurable, you need to know when you've finished the task, when you've completed the objective. So thinking about you're going to produce how many pages of a CV? Here's a tip you want to. And then you're going to say, is it attainable? So think, is it realistic? Are you going to be able to achieve it in the time that you've set? If you are absolutely snowed under with essays that you've got to produce or tests you're revising for, it's no good saying, oh, and on top of that, I'm going to do my CV within 3 days. It won't work and you'll feel really deflated if you can't achieve it. So try to make sure that it is something that's realistic and attainable. Is it relevant? Ask yourself that. So often there is a temptation to try and do everything at once because you're keen and because you want to power on through, but actually, is it relevant at that particular moment? If you are writing a CV, but you're not thinking of even looking at jobs for a year, you may find you're going to actually have to add to that CV. And so it may not be as relevant to you in that moment. So think carefully about what's relevant so you don't end up doing work and then redoing it at a later time. And make sure it's time-based. Make sure there is an end point to your goal, to your objective, to your task. This could be you're setting yourself a short-term goal. I'm going to achieve this by the end of the week or by the end of 2 weeks. It could be a mid-term goal. So it could be something that's going to take you a bit longer. For example, I'm going to set up my personal profile through social media or through a professional network. That's probably going to be a mid-term goal. It's going to take a bit longer. There's a lot of facets to that. Or it could be a long-term goal. By this time next year, I will have achieved my degree course. That's a long-term goal. So you need to think about giving yourself a really good time frame for what you're trying to achieve. It's a very good trick to try and have a mixture of short, mid and long-term goals. Now, the reason for this is that as humans, we like to be organized. Even if you think you don't, you actually do. You work better with routine, you work better with having something organized and knowing what's coming. We like to know what's coming. If you have short, mid and long-term goals, you'll be able to plot and see how far you are away from achieving all of those goals. It gives you a sort of structure to your activities. Try to have maybe 2 or 3 short-term goals that you're going to work through, and you're just going to keep rotating. They're going to change over each time you've completed one. You might set yourself another one, as long as you've got the time to complete it. And with your midterm goals, you probably want maybe 2 of those, just to keep it nice and tight. And your long-term goal is probably only going to be 1 or 2 as well. You do not want to feel overwhelmed by this, particularly because you've all got busy lives, you've all got things you want to do and things you want to achieve. And trying to do too much based on employability will just frazzle you. So try not to go overboard. So my next question to you all is, do you know what career you want to get into? So Jenny, yeah, thank you very much. The poll has come up, you should see on your screen now. And so you're looking at 0 meaning not at all. I have no idea even what field I want to enter. And 5, it's absolutely, I know exactly what career I want to get into. And don't worry, if you're already in a line of work, but it's not really the career that you want to be in, you know, longer term, then that's fine. We're just talking about careers with your long-term plans for where you want to end up.
Okay, looks like most people voted. So if you want to put your vote in very quickly now, I'm going to be ending the poll in 1 second. Okay. And sharing the results. So it looks like most people have some idea of what career they want to get into, but there's a couple of people who have no idea at all.
Okay, so thank you very much for those of you who voted. So it's great that I think the majority of you really are saying, yeah, I know exactly what I want to get into. I just need to get the galvanization and just go for it. And that's fantastic. And for those of you who aren't sure at all, don't worry about it. You've got time, you can think about it, and there's nothing stopping you from embarking on one little path towards a career that you think you might want and then changing at a later point. You'll still develop skills that will be useful elsewhere, so don't panic. Oh, I've gone back too far. Thank you. Okay, so my next question is, what career would suit me? Now, this is something that you need to take a bit of time to think over if you haven't already decided what career you want to be in. If you already know what career that you think you're going to go into, really analyze that and think, is it going to suit me down to the ground? Okay, because sometimes we have this sort of fantasy idea about what we'd like to do. For example, for me, I really wanted to write novels and sit up. I had this idea of having a loft conversion with the sun shining down on me and just in the peace and quiet writing novels. As it turned out, I'm not equipped to write novels at all. I don't have the patience or the commitment to do it. And so although it was a lovely fantasy, in reality, I don't like being on my own to work very much. I don't, as I say, I don't have the commitment to plot and plan a whole novel. And what I liked about it, what I did take from that dream, from that fantasy, was actually what I really enjoy is writing, and I really enjoy connecting with people. And so the job I'm in now, where I'm teaching and I'm training and I'm writing these sort of books, I get to engage with people. I get to talk a lot. I get to do the writing that I love doing. So I took from my fantasy the things that actually suit me and made a career out of it. So make sure when you're thinking, okay, I know what career I want to get into, just double check that it is actually going to tick all the boxes for you. And the things that you might want to consider with that is thinking, what do you think the benefits of that career would be to your life? What's important to you? What is your priority list? Is it you want lots of money, a really high paid job? Is it you want the status? Is it you want something that is going to have you working outside a lot or working inside a lot? Do you want to meet a lot of people? Would you prefer to be on your own? So thinking about all of these things that will make your work life happy is really important to do now. You may get into the job that you think is your dream and actually it isn't quite the dream, but it's good enough, and that's fine. So just take a bit of time to think that one through, and that might be one of your short-term goals, is to sit down and do a spider chart or a list, whichever way you prefer to do it, and write the pros and cons of that dream job. Thinking about what your work personality might be is a good idea. So you have your academic personality, and this might be that you are very organized. It might include that you're very communicative with your lecturers. It might be that you like working for group work and giving presentations. So thinking about the things that you enjoy in your academic life will help you sort of try and mold who you might be in your work life. And the skills that you're learning at university are definitely transferable to work. Excuse me. If you're not sure what your academic personality is, ask around. It's a good idea to ask your peers. So, oh, what do you think? You know, how do you think I am in terms of my academic personality? Ask them the question. If you are already in work, if you've already got a job, maybe talk to your colleagues, talk to your manager. What do they think are the best things about you? A, it's lovely because people will tell you lovely things about you, and B, it'll give you a sense of, actually, I didn't realize I was doing that, but I do, and I really like it. And that might transfer over. Utilize the people in your network. So at the moment at university, you might find that your network is limited to the academic world that you are in. So your lecturers, the support staff at university, you might have been out on an academic placement, and you might have some contacts there that you could utilize and rely on. Your peers, you know, that it might be that you're in your first year but you know somebody in their third year and they've already gone through an academic placement, or they've already started in a career that you're thinking of getting into. Go and talk to them. It might be that actually the people that are most useful to you in your network at the moment might come through your family and friends. For example, if you are going into a line of work that you know your mother's friend is in, you might say, actually, can I sit down and chat with you about it? And get a better sense what the work is going to entail. Have a look also at the organisations that you might end up working for. And it gives you a couple of things from doing that. One, you'll get a better sense of the field. Particularly if it's quite competitive, you want to be looking at what all of these organisations are saying in terms of their values, their vision statements. What are they actually doing in terms of projects? What benefits do they give to their staff? The reason you want to do this is because you then, when you go to interview, and you will get to that point of getting to interview, you will then have a better sense of what's going on in the field that you're entering into. It makes you feel more confident and calm when you're in that interview, but it also comes across very well to an interview panel. You might want to consider whether they're a good match in terms of their work ethos as well. So for example, if you're going into a company and you are a bit of an eco warrior, or you are very concerned about eco issues, then going into a company that doesn't care about that at all might not be such a good match. But if there's a company that has got those sort of things on their website or in their company literature, you might find that actually that works better for you. A lot of organizations now will look at whether you are a good match and will fit into their team in terms of your personality and your skills and attributes, as opposed to what qualifications you've got. That's obviously still important, but they are looking for a good match in terms of personality and in terms of your values and their values matching up. So certainly worth looking at all of that before you go into interview. You might want to consider what type of career would suit you. So, you know, back however many years in the previous century, we had, you know, you'd go into a job and you'd probably stay in that job until you retire. It's no longer like that. The market isn't like that anymore. There is a lot more movement. And if you stay long term in a company, there are, yeah, sure, some benefits. And that is a very good way if you are happy with what you're doing and there's a progression route that you are pleased with, fine. But you need to sort of think cleverly about this and think, what are you going to get out of it? The market is constantly shifting. So thinking about what career type you might want a portfolio career. This is where you're mixing and matching. So if you are the sort of person that thinks doing the same thing day in and day out would bore you, do consider a portfolio career. Do consider, okay, I'm going to do on Monday to Wednesday, I'm doing this job, and Thursday and Friday, I'm doing that job. And it might be that you have a bit more flexibility with that. And this ties in with part-time work or self-employed work as well, or freelance work sometimes, self-employed freelance. So, for example, in terms of my career, as an example, I'm a sign language interpreter, freelance sign language interpreter. I am a self-employed trainer, and business owner, and I am a university lecturer, and on the side an author. Sorry, not really on the side, Sage. I love you dearly. But it does mean that I have things that I'm chopping and changing all the time, and I enjoy that type of work. Some people find that really stressful because they don't want to chop and change all the time. They don't want to keep changing into different hats. So consider what you might want to do in terms of your career. Do you want it to be part-time? Do you want it to be full-time? Consider what else you want to do with your life, and also what you can manage financially and emotionally. If you are in a line of work that takes a lot of emotional strain, if you're in some sort of care work or anything like that, you might find actually part-time suits you better. Right, let me get thinking about your career and what you might be going into, as I said earlier, make sure you're going to be happy, you're going to be satisfied with your job. Think about where you want to work. Think about, is it going to be working from home, which a lot of people, as you might expect, so many people have been working from home in the last couple of years, but it might not suit you. You might actually want to be out there doing something. So have a look and see what the options are. Think about what your deal breakers are. Again, this could be one of your short-term goals, is to write a list of all the things that you want out of a job. Then write all the things you definitely wouldn't be able to tolerate. If you go into a line of work where you are doing things or in a situation that doesn't match your values or is emotionally draining, or you find to be kind of at odds with who you are, you'll find it exhausting and you won't do your best work, and it can be really demoralizing and really deflating. So making sure you know, what are the deal breakers? Okay, from a job, I need these top 5 things. If I have those top 5 things, but I have this one thing from I cannot do this job, then you need to maybe look at whether it's worth the payoff. Okay. So now thinking about skills, what skills are valuable? So in terms of what we're talking about, in terms of a skill here, we're talking about things that you have learned. So these are things generally, your university students, academic skills. Think about the presentations you've had to give, the planning you've had to put into essays, the preparation you've had to do to work as a group, the teamwork you've had to show, the communication skills that you've had to have when you're dealing with academics, when you're dealing with peers, when you're dealing externally from the university. So these are all skills that you might then want to be able to put onto a CV or talk about in an interview. So for example, you might say, well, my presentation skills, they're really top notch. Okay, so I'm going to put that on my CV, and I'm going to put a little example of that skill and say I had to deliver 3 presentations in the last academic year, and did it with great success. When you get to interview, you can build on that and say, well, how did you prepare for that presentation? Did you have to go above and beyond? Did you have to find new software to put it on? Did you have to work with others? Don't forget, presentations also have other skills within them. So you've also got things like timekeeping skills and managing a group discussion. That could come into it as well. If you're not sure about your skills, try thinking about doing a 360-degree review. So you may have heard of this in other contexts. It's something that's relatively popular in terms of the workplace, and it's where you get some feedback. So you get feedback from somebody above you. So for example, a manager, a lecturer, somebody like that. Somebody who is at the same level as you, so a peer, colleague, it might be somebody you share classes with or you've done some group work with, and somebody who is, for example, a customer, or somebody who is outside of your team, outside of your orbit a little bit, and get feedback from them as well, and from yourself. So thinking about trying to get a really well-rounded, clear picture of what you do well, and also what you don't do so well, what you need to improve on. It's very easy to focus on the negatives. So try to also look at the positives and think about, actually, I'm really good at these things. You have to stay positive. In terms of your employability, when you are writing your CV, when you're writing that covering letter or going into interview, you are going to want to be positive, because you're selling what you've got. You're selling yourself, essentially. So you need to really look and focus on those positives, but you cannot dismiss the things you need to work on, because the things you need to work on, they're going to bumble along as your goals and your objectives, and you're going to keep improving and improving and improving. And it's also important because often in an interview, they will ask you, okay, so what do you think you'd need to work on, and what do you need to improve on? And, well, what's your weakness? And you need to be prepared for those sort of questions. And you don't want to say, oh my goodness, I'm dreadful at something. But what you want to do is say, look, I have knowledge, I need to work on something. And that is a really positive thing to be able to do. You need to think about which skills are going to be valuable for the career that you're going into. So take a bunch of adverts that you've got for various jobs in the field you want to be in, and go through with a highlighter pen. Highlight all the skills that they are asking for. And this could be things like being able to deliver presentations or using a particular computer software or something like that. Highlight them. Then look at what your own skills are. Are you able to do them? If you are, fantastic. Can you prove it? Now, proving it doesn't have to be a massive, essay about what you've done where you've used it. It might be, for example, if you've used a particular software, you might have a portfolio with some work in. You might have a statement or some feedback from a lecturer that you might want to stick in and say, actually, you know what, my lecturer was really impressed with this. So try and think about which skills are wanted by the potential employer, what you already have, and how you prove it. So 3 steps. Okay, so your attributes are slightly different. So skills are things we learned. Your attributes, your personal attributes, are just who you are, your core. Okay, and for some people, it's things like being really optimistic. Your personal attribute might be that you are a planner. You plan everything. You might be somebody who just dives in. You just jump in and have a go at something. And these are all positive attributes in their own way. So it's important to identify what those attributes are. And again, doing a bit of a review, asking people in your network what they think those attributes are can be helpful, particularly if you've hit up against a brick wall and you're like, well, I've got no idea. It's something that some people find quite uncomfortable to analyze what it is that they are bringing to a job, particularly if you are just out of university and you don't have a lot of work experience, or you haven't been in that particular field before. It can be nerve-wracking. But recognizing what your attributes are, what you're bringing to the table, can be a really positive experience. And they can help you in terms of choosing your career path. If a particular job needs a certain type of person, and you're that type of person, if you can see, well, these are my attributes, this would fit in nicely, you've got a lot to talk about when you get to that interview. Drawing together, the last bullet point on this slide says about drawing together your skills, attributes, and experience in an interview. Prepare. I cannot stress this enough. Prepare before you go to interview. Don't think you'll wing it. Don't feel like you're quite an extrovert person or you're quite confident and you are better just winging it. Prepare, because you need to make sure that you are ready to give them exactly what they want. You want to make this the easiest interview for the panelists, okay? So you want to know, you want to tie up, you want to sew together your skills, your attributes, and your experience, so into 1 or 2 anecdotes that you can share at interview. It makes it really easy for the person interviewing you to go, I see now. I see you've proven these skills, these attributes. I can see what your experience is, and I know you'll fit into this company. This is, again, going back, if you research what the company is all about, look online, find out about them, you can then tailor your anecdotes, pick the ones that are going to be really good. In the book, if you choose to buy the book, it has got, or borrow the book, it has got a table and sort of some exercises you can do to help you do this process. So, thinking about how to make your experience count. You will have plenty of academic experience which will help you. In terms of the actual job search and the actual putting together your CV, the academic experience is going to be invaluable because it has taught you how to plan. It's taught you how to manage your time. It's taught you goal setting. Even if you haven't registered it as goal setting, you have had to do it. In terms of your writing abilities and presenting yourself, you've had to do it through your university experience. So you will find that helps you in the actual employability process. In terms of actually making it count for the interview stage, you can find out what employers are looking for. If a job advert is really sparse and you're thinking, I kind of want more information than that before I go into interview, or I'm not quite clear on something, do not be afraid to get in touch with them. Okay, make sure that you are polite and you are friendly and you are to the point. Okay, I don't mean go in and bark questions at them. I mean send an email or give them a phone call and say, I'm sorry, who is it that I'm going, who is actually responsible for doing the interview, or who's advertising this particularly within your company? And then you can say, okay, I saw this advert, I was really interested, I just want to know a little bit more about the job, please. It opens it up, you've made a connection straight away. And when you go to interview, you'll feel more confident because you've heard somebody, you've talked to somebody, or you've read an email from somebody, you know somebody's name. But also they'll remember because they're more likely to go, oh, you were the person that was really interested. You called up or you sent an email. You must be really, you're really thorough. That's a good skill to have when you're going into a job. Be prepared to talk about your experience. Again, in the book, there is an exercise in there getting you to think about your experience. And I don't know why that's just something just popped down at the top of the screen. So thinking about, before you go to interview, think about what sort of experiences have you had that can demonstrate the skills and the attributes that are being looked for. So, for example, if you are going into a job and you think, oh, okay, they want somebody who is able to talk to customers and who is confident about, for example, cold calling customers or potential customers, or looking for somebody who can present themselves well, think about all your experience. And it may not just be limited to your academic experience. Maybe some work experience you've had before, or some just personal experience. It might be, for example, that they want somebody who's a bit fearless. You get the impression they want somebody fearless, and you've jumped out of a plane. Fantastic. So you know that example of jumping out the plane, it shows a level of confidence and fearlessness, which is good, but also it demonstrates, well, hang on, you had to be quite prepared for that. You had to plan it. When you did it, you had to be sure and trust the person you were with, and you had to learn something new, and you weren't afraid of giving it a go. So all of those sort of qualities can be pulled out of that anecdote. If you're in an interview and you know of somebody who works within the organisation, as long as you've got permission from them and you think it will be a favourable thing, you may want to mention that you've talked about the job in some depth with one of the people working within the organisation. It does two things. One, hopefully, if they like that person, it gets you in, and they think, oh, right, okay, so you're being really thorough, you do know somebody here, so you do really genuinely know what the job's about and what the company is about. And two, it'll make you feel a bit better, because you'll think, actually, this isn't an alien space for me. This isn't an alien encounter. Okay. So thinking now about what is your brand? You may think, brand? I need a brand. Or you may think, oh yeah, I've come across that before. So just having a look. Okay. So just thinking about your brand, thinking about creating a professional one, you will already probably, I'm going with a high likelihood here, that you will already have a lot of stuff out there that people can find about you, whether that's through social media, whether that's on something, a professional social media, for example, like LinkedIn or something like that. It might be through blogs that you've been putting up, or vlogs that you put up. It might be just information about you, about trips that you've been on, or a friend has tagged you in a picture somewhere. Think really carefully about what is already available for anybody to have a look at. I'm not going to say that social media is a bad thing at all in terms of your employability. It can be really beneficial, particularly if you've put some work into it. So thinking about the type of work that you want to get into. If, for example, it's very much project-based, or it's very much based online anyway, producing a portfolio online could be quite a useful thing for you to do. Having your own website, or having somewhere that you can put in about the conferences that you've been to, or the things that you've done within university. You might have been doing some sort of program within your university to boost your employability. Use it. It might be that you've read an interesting article or an interesting book that is relevant to the career you want to get into, and you might want to write something about that. Put it on a blog, put it on a post it somewhere, and try and consolidate what you've got. Okay, so some people go all out and make their own little personal website about who they are and what they can do, and the things they've been, and they upload to it all the time. They put pictures on there, and that's fine. If the career that you're going into, if you feel that sort of information being out in the public domain, if you think that's going to be helpful, great. If it's not relevant at all to the job you want to get into, just don't worry about it. You don't need to do anything. What you do need to do is check your privacy settings on your social media, and make sure, look, Google yourself, find out what is it that you are put it as already out there about you. There's a benefit and there's a curse having the internet for the people coming into the careers market at the moment, because chances are, if you're going for an interview, somebody within that on that interview panel has checked who you are, checked if you're actually out there. And that's fine. If you've got loads of stuff out there about you that's, you know, really positive and will help you get into the job, super. In terms of who can help you produce stuff, if you've got a peer that you think, oh, okay, we'll do swapsies, you'll help me, I'll help you on something else, great. But just make sure you are happy with what is being put out there. There are professional organisations that you can help you. If you're really at the start of your career, you probably don't want to spend out a lot of money in terms of getting a professional to help you produce a brand of some sort, but it's something you might want to bear in mind for further down the line if you're doing a career change, or you want a promotion, or you're thinking of changing companies. You might want to have a think about it. Make sure if you are putting stuff out there that it is accurate. What you don't want to do, is put something out there that says you are the all singing, all dancing, most amazing person in the whole world, and you get to interview and you have to say, actually, I'm not quite that, or I'm not really that either. Make sure it's authentic. It's very easy to tell if somebody hasn't been authentic when you meet face to face. So don't set yourself up to fail. Okay. So we're going to think about planning next. And so my next question to you is, do you know how you plan best for things such as essays, activities, and so on? And you've got a poll in front of you now that says 0, I don't know how to do this at all, to 5, I already do this very well. So you're thinking about all the different planning methods that you might have come across through your academic career, and thinking about, do I actually know how I plan best for me? Well, I'll just give you a couple of minutes to answer that.
I think people are thinking a little bit more about this one. It's a little bit slower, but we're getting there. So 60% of people have voted now.
Brilliant.
Does anyone else want to vote before I close it? Oh, we've got a couple more. Okay, so we'll end the poll and share the results. It's a bit of an even mix on this one. I think three is the highest one, but we've had some people voting on all numbers from 0 to 5.
Okay, so a real spread on this one. Okay, so can we close that down? Is that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so planning, as I've said from the start of this talk, planning is really important. Preparing yourself is really important. And one of the things that will really help you is to make those SMART goals that were mentioned in the earlier slide, about making sure it's specific and it's measurable, etc. In terms of how you plan, physically how you plan, whether that is having alarms set on your phone, whether that is writing a 6-point plan on a piece of paper, whether that's having lists or post-it notes everywhere, whether it's having a spider chart, whether it is having a Gantt chart where you have multiple activities going at the same sort of time. However best you do it for this. This takes planning. There is no point jumping in and thinking, oh, I'll just whip out a CV and then feeling like, oh, okay, that took longer than I thought it was going to take, and I didn't really do it as well as I wanted to. I didn't allocate enough time for it, etc. So making sure that you've planned what you're going to do. Be targeted. Know that you are going to look for new jobs in the field that you want to get into. Do that, every few days for an hour or whatever. Make sure you've got some way of keeping it contained and keeping it going. So in terms of planning for your success, you'll have thought about, you'll have done some academic planning anyway in terms of planning essays, presentations, and so on. Reflect on it. Did it go well? Did that sort of planning method work for you? Were you working in a group to do a presentation and the planning system that was used wasn't really going to work for you? Why didn't it work? What works best for you? If you are a more visual person, you might prefer to have post-it notes everywhere. You might prefer to have a list you can refer back to. If you are somebody who is more kinesthetic, somebody who is much more tactile and hands-on with things, it might be that you remind yourself when you're going to do stuff by actually having a place set up to do your employability tasks. Making sure you are ready. When you sit down to write that CV, have you already got a list of all your qualifications somewhere? Do you know when you got them? Trust me, the further away you get from your education, the harder it is to remember dates of when you achieve certain things. Think about who can help you to succeed. So think about that network. It's really important. That network is there for you to draw on, but also to support back. There is something really lovely about knowing, okay, I can't offer anything to this person, but they're helping me. I'll lodge that, I'll remember that, and when they need help in the future, I'll be able to help them. Acknowledge what is being done for you. Being polite, being friendly is all one thing, but making sure you say thank you very much, be grateful for what you're getting from your network. It might be that you have an employability buddy at uni, so somebody who's also looking for work, maybe in a different area, I don't know. Is it up to you whether you'd find it too competitive if you're both going for the same stuff or not? But hold each other to account. Oh, have you done that this week? No. Oh no. Okay, I'll do it. Or it might be that you have a family member, particularly if you're doing a lot of studying at home, you have a family member that is able to sort of give you a tap on the shoulder every so often and say, have you done your CV yet? It might be that actually you're not really sure yet. Some of you weren't sure about what career you wanted to go into. Okay, is there a career service at your university? If not, is there somewhere externally that you could go and find out what careers are out there, what would suit me? Are there personality tests I could be taking? You'll find a lot of things online, like aptitude tests and personality tests, that can help you work out which line of work you might want to go into. Be cautious, because some of them do ask for payment, and you probably don't want to necessarily get into that, particularly as most universities will have a career service that you can access and you'll be able to get a lot of information from. So I'd look there first. Hold yourself to account as well. Just before I change the slide, hold yourself to account. Be responsible. In the same way that you want to achieve your degree, and so you plan to succeed, and you plan every little bit from when your essays are due in, and planning how you're going to fit everything into, making sure you don't go partying the night before you have an exam. You are aware of your responsibility to be able to achieve and succeed in your degree. Apply the same sort of thing to your career, to your success in your chosen field. So activating your plan, this is the exciting bit. You'll have done a lot of planning. You'll have lots of lovely goals. You may have even color-coded them. It is now time to activate. You need to now think about, okay, I've got everything lined up. I'm ready to write the CV. I'm ready to apply for these particular jobs. Once you're prepared, you need to then get going, and you need to set yourself a deadline. Do not do it endlessly. You will exhaust yourself. Don't do it to yourself. What you need to do is think, okay, I'm going to apply for these 6 jobs that I found last week, and I apply for them. Maybe not last week, do it sooner than that. So I'm going to apply for them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 2 hours doing this. If the 2 hours is up and you haven't completed them all, don't panic. Take a break. It may not be actually very good for you to continue past that 2 hours, because you will be so tired from seeing all the application forms. It might be that you need to think, okay, I'll learn from that. Next time I'll know how long roughly it takes me to do one application, and I'll be able to extrapolate. And then plan another time to complete that task. If something goes wrong, what if something goes wrong? I get asked this a lot actually by students. What if something goes wrong? Don't feel demoralized. Things will go wrong. It's life. You have planned to succeed. You have planned and done your best to prepare yourself to succeed. Things will go wrong, not always within your control, but if you can control it, you can learn from it. You can not do that again next time. If something goes wrong and it's out of your control, you have to just accept it. You have to go, okay, it wasn't my responsibility. That was out of my control. I'm going to just bench that now. I don't need to worry about it, and keep going. Just keep going. If, for example, You are due to be at an interview and something's gone wrong, you haven't been able to make it. Be proactive, call them up, explain why you're not there. If you have missed it because you have forgotten about it, maybe think of a slightly nicer excuse than I forgot about the job interview. But make sure you do reach out and get in touch with them. Don't be the person they're going, oh, I wonder whatever happened to so-and-so. Okay. And make sure you plan again. The planning will continue, the goal setting will continue, it'll roll on and on and on until you are successful in that career. And I tell you, you'll probably carry on once you're in that career as well, because you'll want to progress in that career. Thinking about your time frame is really important, okay, when you're activating that plan. Think about your life-work balance. And often it's said work-life balance. And I prefer life-work balance because it's important to enjoy your life. It's important to do things you want to do. And, you know, as university students, you have already been balancing your academic responsibilities with actually having a bit of a social life, or going out and getting work experience, or volunteering at wherever you want to volunteer. And it's important that you don't do so much on your employability that you no longer want to be in the job because you are exhausted by it, because you feel that you are hitting up against walls at the time. Often that wall is just pure frustration or tiredness from working so hard at something. You sometimes need to have a bit of a breather, so plan that in. Okay, so your next steps. I'm aware that we're slightly over time, but it'll be okay. And there'll still be time for questions at the end. So in terms of your next steps, reflect on how your success is. Okay, so reflect on how you've been doing that. Try and do this particularly during your employability, when you're actually trying to get into the job. Try to reflect each week or 2 weeks. Have I achieved my goals? Have I done it well? Is there anything I need to change? Do I need to add another short-term goal? Do I need to change paths altogether? This sort of reflection doesn't need to take long. It can be 5 minutes, but you do need to do it, because otherwise you could end up blindly going down a path that you don't want to be going down. Once you're actually in the job, try and reflect each month and think, am I still enjoying the job? Am I doing well at the job? Is there anything I can improve on, and how can I improve on it? So you're sort of trying to have these steps to make sure that you are still progressing once you're actually within the job. You're still progressing for your overall career. In terms of who might help you, it might be feedback from a manager, it might be peer feedback, it might be that you have somebody in your network, a mentor that you can go and talk to. And remember, feedback is a gift. Somebody wise once said this to me, and I love it, and I try to put it in every book that I write. Feedback is a gift, because somebody's giving you something, they're giving you information, and sometimes it's really positive, and sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I didn't do so well, but it's still a gift because you can learn from it and you can work on it, but don't ignore it. And as I say, limiting the amount of time you spend on employability will mean that you don't tire of it. So now we've reached the end. I want you to know, how confident do you feel about knowing what you need to do to go forward in terms of getting into your chosen career? And a poll has just come up. 0 meaning not at all confident, still stressed about it, to 5, which is very confident. Thank you for the feedback in the chat.
Okay, we're at 69% participated now, so I think people are having a proper think about this one.
There's a lot of information.
Yeah, definitely, and I think so through these events we've realised how overwhelming it can be for students, that there's a lot of information out there, not always knowing where to go to get it, the information. So it's really good to have it all laid out like this. Okay, I'll end the poll now and share the results.
Fantastic. Okay, I'm sorry for the one person who says not at all confident. That might be going up, but either ask some questions at the end. or perhaps, yeah, seek out the career service in your university for some more advice, or go and get the Super Quick Skills book and work through the activities, and hopefully by the end you'll feel better. And lots of you are saying, brilliant. So lots of you are saying either 3, 4, 5 from that. Good, okay. Thank you very much, Jenny. And now, any questions? So I think we've got, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment.
We do have one in the Q&A section that did pop up a little while ago, so I've been holding it in reserve.
Thank you. Sorry, so focused.
No, that's all right. I think it's best to wait till the end anyway, just so we don't interrupt your flow. But they just said, what if I don't have much work experience, but I'm heavily involved in volunteering or relevant experience, such as placements and taking on leadership roles?
Fantastic. What brilliant experience to have. Include it, definitely include it. Particularly from graduates, we find that CVs have quite a limited, or sometimes have quite limited in terms of work experience. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be paid work experience. If you're volunteering, it shows real initiative anyway and a passion for what you're volunteering for. And to have that sort of experience on a CV just, you know, makes you look brilliant. So do put it on there and do mention it at an interview.
Definitely. And someone else is asking about how do we ask for feedback after being interviewed?
Okay, so once you've had an interview, no matter whether you've got the job or not, if you've got the job, you'll get some feedback anyway, because once you're in position, you'll find, oh, we really liked this about you, or really felt that that was something that you'd bring to the role. If you haven't been successful in getting the job, and you haven't, or you haven't heard, so lots of organizations get so many applicants, they often say, if you haven't heard in 2 weeks, you haven't got the job. But if you've got to interview, you should be entitled to some feedback. So making sure that you get in touch, even if it's a bit sad you haven't got the job you went for, do contact them and say, I just wondered if I could have a bit of feedback on the interview, please. And sometimes you'll get one sentence back, and sometimes you'll get a whole load of stuff of saying, well, we thought you were good, but we were actually looking for a little bit more of this or a little bit of that. At least then you know going forward, okay, so that's the stumbling block, that's where it's going awry, and I can work on it. I hope that helps.
And yeah, someone else was asking if whether they were selected or rejected. Can we ask them for the reason for it?
You can. You absolutely can. And if you're anything like me, you'd be desperate to know. So all they can do is turn around and say, oh, we had somebody better. That's, you know, they're not going to turn around and do a character assassination. They're professionals, and it's really a good idea to get some feedback, because it will inform your objectives, your goals, and what you'll do going forward. So definitely do. And Mel, I agree with you, you should.
And then we've got quite a long one from Laura. I'm going to read it all out. Saying, I'm currently working towards an award scheme through my university, and as part of it needs to complete a set amount of hours of personal development, including attending virtual events. That's great. My university will require confirmation that I've attended this career event. Am I able to get your contact details? Yes, definitely. That's great that we're helping with your personal development. That's really, really rewarding for us to hear that as well. Yeah. So yes, definitely. And I will be sending an email out to all attendees with the slides anyway. So if you just reply to me, if you need anything like that, just reply to me and I'll confirm. So definitely. Oh, I've got a few more popping up. So how do you start again? How do you introduce yourself in a work interview?
Well, luckily they'll know who's coming through the door because they've arranged the interview. But I think the two important things are be prepared to shake hands and be prepared to smile. It can be so nerve-wracking going into interview, and if you look scared, they won't have faith in you. So however much you're faking it till you make it, go in and smile. It's such a key thing to do. And once you've got a new smile, you'll feel better, because as soon as you smile, all your chemical reactions in your brain start firing off of, oh no, this is not a horrible experience, it's a positive one. But also they'll smile back at you. It's human nature. We smile at somebody, they smile back. So once they started smiling at you, that you're already kind of on friendly terms anyway. If you are going in and there's an opportunity to shake hands with any them, take the opportunity to do so. Make sure you haven't got sweaty palms. It's not nice for anybody involved. In this day and age, actually, with COVID, probably nobody's shaking hands with anybody. And you may find it's a Zoom interview. And they're really difficult to do because you're not in the room with that person. Dress for the interview. Please don't sit there with your pajama bottoms on because you won't feel prepared. And actually, part of the ritual of getting yourself over the nerves and to get in control of the nerves is to get yourself prepared. Put on the makeup if you're putting on makeup. Get your interview outfit as if you were going to walk into that building and meet that interview panel. Make sure your space is set up to look professional. Once you've done all that, you'll feel confident going in. If you turn up and you're a little bit early onto a Zoom meeting, or you're not sure how to say goodbye at the end, know that everybody's feeling it. It's not just you. Everybody's going, oh, this is a bit strange because it's not how we're used to things. So do try to smile. It'll make you feel better.
I'll just take this advantage to say that we have had a previous event that's been specifically designed for doing interviews online. So if you're not sure about it, then that's a really great one to watch. They have actors that play different roles in the interview. So yeah, it's really fun. So there's some very obvious mistakes like having a Harry Potter background on your screen, but then there's some really good tips as well that are I found really useful. Especially that last question, you know, when they say in your interview, what do you ask in your last question when they say, have you got any other questions? And your mind goes blank. So they've got some great tips for that as well.
Brilliant.
So what else have we got?
And Nicola, I agree with you. Nicola's just said it's okay to be nervous but not scared. I would agree. If you are scared going in, then there's something has gone wrong. You haven't planned, you haven't prepared enough, and you're not in the right frame of mind to do the interview. Going in nervous, you want to be a bit nervous. You want to have that adrenaline going because you'll perform then. You'll do well.
And from an interviewing point of view, having interviewed a lot of students, because I used to run a university bookshop, so we hired a lot of students through that. Everyone's nervous, and you do expect people to be nervous, so you will get some leeway. So don't worry too much. And if you go in and say, sorry, I'm a bit nervous, then that's absolutely fine. I think that everyone's going to give you some leeway. They're not horrible people there. They want to find someone to fit in their team.
Exactly. They're not waiting for you to fail. They're not. Okay, so somebody's asked, how would an individual approach someone to mentor them? It's something that I'd like to have to explore different opportunities. So it depends what area of work you're going into. So some some fields have a mentoring system already in place. And so it's about logging on or getting registered with that particular professional body and looking at what schemes they have. You might find that's really useful, particularly if you are just starting out. Having a mentor is invaluable, it really is. However, a word of caution, if you get a mentor and you think, I'm not really getting what I want out of this, consider changing things up. Do consider changing mentors if you need to, or discussing it with your mentor and saying, this isn't working for me, can we actually meet more regularly, or can I get some different feedback or whatever. Try not to fork out any money for it if you don't have to. Some professional bodies will say, well, these are our recommended mentors and this is their fee for however often you are going to meet with them. Just check that is going to work for you. Make sure it is actually going to get you what you want before you hand over any money. If you don't have that, if that's not the sort of line of work you're going into, call around, ask. It might be that your lecturers or somebody within the university can actually put you in touch with somebody or have it there already. It might be that, for example, first years, you might be able to ask, oh, can I buddy up with somebody in the third year to get a sense of what's coming next? So yeah, do look around, and if there's a particular organisation you're really keen to get into, there is no harm in asking them if you can come in and do some shadowing, or there's somebody there that you could talk to.
Okay, I think we've answered all of the questions. Oh, here we go. This is another one. Do you know if there are any websites which can simulate online interviews just so people can get used to it?
I don't know any off the top of my head. Jenny, do you know any?
I don't. This is something that we are looking into because I think that's a really good question, and it's something that as a company, we want to support students with their employability. So we are developing a lot of new sort of work around sort of the boosting your skills and trying to support students with that. And if that is something that you're interested in, that is something that we're sort of building at the moment. So if you sign up to our mailing list, as soon as we have that developed, then we can tell you about it, because I think that's something that is a very good point, that if you've never practiced an interview and it's a stranger, because it's very different practicing with your friends that know you or your family to a complete stranger, then it's very difficult. And I think you don't always get, you can practice the interview questions, but you can't do it live with someone. It's quite, I've not heard of anything, but it might be something that we could sort of develop in the future. So yes, keep an ear out.
I think Nicola might be on it. Nicola's saying, I would love to do this as a business.
There we go.
Very enterprising.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be a great service to have as well. Lots of people would find that useful. Okay. I'm just going to pop my email address in the chat. So my name's Jenny, and I do all of the sort of organising of the Boost Your Skills events, and we have a few happening each month of the academic year. So if you've got any questions, then you can send them over to me after the event. And like I said, I will be sending through the link to the video and the slides to all of you as well. So if you feel like you missed any of the points, you'll be able to rewatch it all. So that's all good. We do have a lot of events that have happened already, that those videos will also be on YouTube, and they're free to view. So watch as many as you'd like, and please do leave feedback in the comments if they've been of help, because it's always useful to hear from students as well. And thank you very much for coming, and getting a lot of thank yous in the chat there. So if there's no other questions, I think that will be it. Oh, there's an acceptable CV format that you can share a sample.
Okay, so yes, there are, I mean, I don't need to share anything because you can find it online very easily. Just put in CV template, and depending with your CV, what you want to do, I think I mentioned this briefly earlier, you want to have a master copy with everything on, and then tailor it for each of your applications. So for example, if you're going for a particular job that requires a set load of experience, qualification, skills, copy and paste across, read it, make sure you haven't missed anything or added anything you didn't mean to, and then that will be the CV you send off. You don't want it any longer than 2 pages, and you want it at reasonable fonts, probably font size 12, and make sure you have your name on it. But there are loads of CV templates out there that you can access. Yeah, the question here in the chat about how many pages for a CV, 2 pages. Yeah. And if you have not enough for 2 pages, don't be tempted to make the font size bigger. It doesn't matter. If you're a new graduate and you don't have an awful lot to put on there, that's all right. Make sure that anything, like one of the participants said earlier, anything that volunteering experience would be really good to put on there. So don't get too worried about putting something like that on there. But yeah, you don't want it any longer than 2 pages.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, there's definitely loads of great CV templates out there. Okay, I think that's all of the questions answered. So thank you very much, Felicity. It's been great to have you here, and
thank you so much, Jenny.
Really great information. And like I said to everyone, if you have any other questions, then please do pop them through in an email. When you log out, there will be a survey. If you have time to complete it, we'd really appreciate it, because it helps us improve our events in the future, which is always important. So thank you very much, everyone, for taking part, and hopefully see you at our next event.
Brilliant.